Welcome to today's Software AG webcast titled A Millennial's Perspective, Modernizing Middleware at Virginia DMV. Today's webcast will be presented by Josh Elkins, software developer at the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles, and Eric Wood, Principal Systems Engineer at Software AG. As we move through today's presentation, I invite you to submit any questions that you may have via the Q&A box, which is located in the lower right corner of your WebEx session. We will do our best to answer all of your questions. In the event that we're not able to answer your question, your submission will be recorded, and today's presenter will be back in touch with you as soon as possible. Additionally, today's presentation is being recorded. This recording will be available to you via YouTube should you wish to access it later on. To receive a copy of the YouTube link, please send an email to the webcast host. Before I turn today's presentation over to Eric, I would like to briefly introduce you to Software AG. Software AG offers the first end-to-end digital business platform based on open standards with integration, process management, adaptive application development, real-time analytics, and IT portfolio management as core building blocks to help customers build their digital futures today. With over 45 years of customer-centric innovation, Software AG is ranked as a leader in many innovative and digital technology categories. Software AG has more than 4,300 employees and is active in 70 countries. It is now my pleasure to welcome Eric Wood.
Thanks, Will. Good morning, everyone, and I'd like to welcome you to this wonderful and fun and exciting webinar. It is my pleasure to introduce Josh Elkins, who is a software developer with the Virginia DMV. I'm currently a systems engineer working with the state and local government on the database and natural side of Software AG. And it's been my pleasure for the last few years to work with Josh and watch him grow as a millennial into our world with natural, database and natural. So enough of me talking about Josh. I would like for you all to sit back and listen to Josh's story. It is a very fun and exciting one. Hope you enjoy. You ready, Josh?
Hey guys, like Eric and Will have both mentioned, my name is Josh Elkins. I'm a software developer at the Virginia DMV, and I've been with the agency for about 10 years at this point, just in various environments. So first off, I'd like to give you a little bit of perspective and a little bit of background on the Virginia DMV. So as you can see here, Virginia DMV has been a Software AG customer for nearly 31 years, which embarrassingly, that's longer than I've even been alive. So 31 years, that's quite a while. We're headquartered in Richmond, Virginia, and altogether we have over 100 different service outlets, whether that be at your local DMV branch office or even some mobile DMV customer service platforms, DMV Connect, retirement homes, prisoners getting ready to reenter society, those types of things. And we also partner with state and local governments and private entities to offer what we call licensed agent locations. And with that, they are authorized to conduct secure transactions utilizing our software. And we develop that on the same platform that the customer service centers use. So with that, we have a customer base of driver's license and ID card holders nearing almost 7 million, and we currently maintain 7.8 million registered vehicles, registration, title records, you name it. Like I mentioned in the last slide, we also serve private entities such as businesses, dealerships, fuel tax customers, intrastate, interstate, trucking companies, driving schools, you name it, DMV probably has a hand in it. And lastly, we have an online internet presence that's very heavy that offers over 40 transactions, including but not limited to driver's license renewal, which I don't know if anyone here knows this, but the Virginia DMV was actually the first motor vehicle agency in the entire world to offer an online driver's license renewal option. And that was back in 1999 when I was in 5th grade. So let's see. Now, I'm one slide ahead. Okay, first off, I'd like to kind of give you a view of the then versus the now. So back in the early 1990s, the Virginia DMV transitioned from a older mainframe-based platform to what we called CSS, or the Citizen Services System. As you can see, it was implemented in the early 1990s and is actually still in use today by some of our internal work units that haven't yet transitioned to a more modern application suite. It has been modified over time to either meet customer needs or legislative requirements. All of the applications, including the maps, data definition modules, and the actual files, they are all managed with database and supported by natural programs and subprograms in the range of probably about 10,000. For the integration points, we use EntireX servers, and we have, I believe, roughly about 450 plus ACI EntireX servers in production. And as time goes along, we're actually migrating to broker RPC transactions, or broker RPC services for our transactions. Now, like I said, the then and now, CSS is our older transactional processing system. It's a green screen application with database map or natural maps, things of that like. So now we are actually more of a .NET C# shop, but we still utilize database natural for all of our applications for mainframe processing. The development team I actually work for is the iSelect development team, which is the application that is run in all of our customer service centers and those external service outlets that I mentioned earlier. As you can see, it was implemented in 2003 and currently supports over 100 different service outlets. And it's integrated with the mainframe using EntireX ACI services, but we are currently in the process of moving towards WCF RESTful services and broker RPC technologies. So before I go too much further, I wanted to give you a little bit of background on myself. My name is Josh Elkins. I'm currently 27 years old, and I reside in the city of Richmond and work there as well. And I'm currently a software developer working on the MySelect team at the Virginia DMV. I began coding at the age of 15, nothing overly crazy, just basic HTML, VB script, applications, PowerShell, things like that. And I've been with the agency about 10 years at this point, starting at 18, right out of high school. And I think what gives me a unique view of the DMV technology platform is that I've seen it evolve over time. When I started with the DMV, we were still using basic green screen technologies interfacing with the mainframe directly, whereas now we use C#, VB.NET applications primarily. And currently, like I mentioned, I am working as a software developer supporting C# .NET business applications that ultimately run on a database natural mainframe. Okay, let's see, before we go too deep into the slides, I just wanted to go over the topics. So first off, I wanted to give you a unique perspective I have on the challenges of cross-platform development. And when I say that, I mean the difference in the transition period between developing in a green screen mainframe environment to switching to a more object-oriented language and development suite, and some of the challenges I've had, and then some of the appreciation and some of the benefits I've experienced by being able to use more modern technology and how it serves our purpose. Let's see, and then the development environment. So I want to compare basically how we went from a green screen mainframe development suite to now modern day IDEs, whether it be Visual Studio, PowerShell, all of the various technology platforms. And then I wanted to explain how we're modernizing at the Virginia DMV and what new technologies we're implementing and how they so far benefited our agency. And then we'll just do a wrap up, which will give a chance for anyone to consider any questions they might have before turning the presentation back over to Eric. Okay, first off, the challenges of cross-platform development. So as you can probably imagine, the culture shock that I had when I came right out of high school with just a little bit of college under my belt, expecting to work in a modern day application. So when I first started with the Virginia DMV, like I mentioned, we had green screen applications. And so that was an immediate culture shock. So some of the challenges that I faced, like I said, green screen technology, as you can imagine, that is not what they're teaching in any college, or at least any college course that I've been in. And then the fact that you have archaic, non-standard editors and the commands that are non-intuitive to your average user, especially if they were not to me, right out of high school and college. Another thing, the lack of features that a standard mainframe connection just doesn't offer, or a standard interface doesn't offer. No spell check. Any programming you do against it, or any data that you exchange, has to be formatted prior to sending back and forth between an application and a program. And lastly, one of the things I didn't even think about, because I'm so used to it now, is I didn't even have a mouse to use. So the fact that I had to tab through all of these screens, and if I was wise enough, I would have just used my cursor in retrospect, but I didn't have a mouse. So the fact that I tabbed through everything and had to use all of these Shift-Alt commands just to be able to interface with basic programs and a basic interface, that was a huge culture shock, and not at all anything that I was used to coming right out of college and high school. So that's those were the challenges that I had immediately. And with that, I really began to appreciate some of the modernization. So modernization is, in my opinion, when you're keeping your core business and you're able to adjust and use more modernized either development environments and produce more modernized applications. So some of the benefits of that that I've noticed immediately through even being a user and a developer. As a developer, I noticed far more rapid application development. So when I started using some of these software AG tools that were provided, it was a game changer for me. So instead of having to format my application strings to be able to interface with a mainframe buffer, I didn't have to do that anymore, but with these technologies, because there was, for example, a .NET wrapper class, something that a standard mainframe interface just doesn't offer. That's now available through these technologies, like the SAG designer, for example. The visibility that I gained through using this new technology. Prior to starting to use software like Natural One and the designer, I actually had to log in directly to a mainframe and view a program. And again, I didn't have a mouse, so I had to tap through it, look through all of these files and go through these commands, things that I'm just not familiar with. So I gained a huge amount of visibility with these new tools. So I can see data definition modules, I can see my programs, I can interact with them more fluidly. So that, too, really helped rapid application development, in my opinion. The communication speed, that's probably my most appreciable benefit. So instead of having to send a 8,000 byte string directly to and from a client application to a mainframe, these tools are smart. They realize that in the wrapper class, for example, you're only exchanging what you need, so you're not wasting space sending data back and forth. And like I said, the intuitive application design tools like the SAG designer integrated with Natural One, had I had this 5 years ago, I would have actually considered a career in mainframe development instead of potentially steering myself directly towards, an IDE like Visual Studio or something like that. Okay, so next one. So modernized development environments. I kind of want to expand on what I talked about in my last slide. So the tool sets, for example, Natural One, the visibility, like I said, is just amazing. It was totally just the polar opposite of what I was used to when I first started developing and even using the applications. And the configuration, instead of needing someone to, someone to take time out of their day to come set up my terminal to be able to connect to the mainframe and the correct broker service and all of these things, I just found the configuration to be really intuitive, and it's no longer cryptic. And I think that that's probably something that a lot of developers, I know a few developers internally that coming right out of college, they definitely appreciate this as well. And it actually made them and myself really more interested in the technology. The SAG Designer, that's my favorite tool, I would say. The reason that is because I can actually generate C# ready classes from natural programs and subprograms, things that I didn't even know were possible to do from a mainframe program. In the test utilities alone, that's a game changer for me too, because previously I would actually have to write a test mainframe program just to be able to test connectivity between some of my client applications and my mainframe programs. So with the test utilities that the SAG Designer offers, that easily takes probably a day or two out of the development cycle just from, the normal debugging, trial and error that I would have done. And overall, it's really helped me understand how well mainframe applications and natural and database can be integrated into a modern day development environment. And of course, it's all based on Eclipse, which is widely supported. There are APIs and plugins available. And also, if I just have a question now, I can do what a typical millennial does and just Google the answer instead of trying to find it out of the book, which that's another story. Okay, how we're modernizing here at the DMV. So a lot of people get the impression that the DMV is not a place where you want to rock the boat and, change doesn't come often. I think we're a little bit different here, at least in Virginia. We are migrating our older SAG EntireX RPC, EntireX ACI services to RPC. First off, RPC is industry standard, and while the technology's been out for a while, of course, with the amount of business and the complexity of our transactions, we're really researching and adapting our applications to be able to take advantage of this technology. The speed and the efficiency alone, it immensely improves at least the development experience, and I know that ultimately that trickles down to the application experience. And of course, as our SAG engineers are with us, they appreciate the fact that we are modernizing our development tools and just taking advantage of the most up-to-date technology. And let's see, we're also creating services that go between us, like Virginia DMV, and agencies like the Virginia Department of Health. And we're doing those utilizing WCF REST services, but ultimately our data resides on the mainframe. So we're using these RPC services to create more efficient common services that can be utilized between agencies, and of course, all secure. And then this is our big effort that is probably going to be occurring, it's already in process, but will be occurring over the next couple of years, is refreshing our code base. Now, our code base is, let's see, 40, so I don't even know if my parents thought about having me yet. So our code base right now is 40 years old. I think that's probably a conservative estimate. But anyway, we're refreshing our code base and trying to see how we can most efficiently adapt to use technologies that are much more reliable. While ADaBase Natural has an incredibly low failure rate, we just want to create more efficient programs, and utilizing these new technologies and all of these great tools, that helps us become better programmers. And I know it's appealing to me. It's appealing to me just being that my technology background is more object-oriented. Having these tools, it's fantastic. It's a game changer. Okay, so I got through this a little bit faster than I would have liked, but I think the one thing I really want to expand on is, had I had these tools when I first started doing development work a few years ago at the DMV, I think that it would have immensely helped me. I would have understood the mainframe better, if that makes sense. So, for example, instead of it being this cryptic black box, which is a phrase I hate to even think of, it's a black box. And it took time, and I was so lucky that I had great colleagues around me, and they are so knowledgeable in the mainframe and the organization and efficiencies. I was so lucky that they were willing to take the time to help me learn how to basically reinvent, teach an old dog a new trick as far as like mainframe programming goes. And I can't thank them enough for that. But with these tools, I think that the DMV will continue to progress, and we'll be able to create more efficient, more industry standard applications. And as far as recruiting new hires right out of college, university, I think you will have a much more appealing environment for them. And again, I can't stress it enough, these technologies and these tools are a godsend, and I'm so happy to see them being implemented. All right, and let's see. I am going to turn this back over to Will. All right, sorry, Will.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Josh. So just very quickly to our attendees today, please take note we're having 2 amazing programs scheduled. Our innovation tour in September will take place in Chicago, in November in Washington, D.C. This is a great opportunity for those interested to connect with colleagues, exchange of ideas, learn new technologies, hear leading lights in the marketplace. Last year we had Steve Wozniak speak at our program. So please take note and explore our innovationtour2017.com for more information. Additionally, this is an opportunity now to please submit any questions you have in the Q&A box. We'd certainly like to pose those to Josh and Eric, so if you have them, please submit them. We're going to start off, Josh, first one. What was your initial impression of mainframe programming, being that your prior experience only involved modern languages?
Okay, well, that was a varied experience, to say the least. Initially, it was kind of a gut punch when I didn't even know how to log into a mainframe, let alone know what the technology was behind it. So I think my initial impression was that this was old school, and I hate that I initially thought that, but because we hadn't yet modernized some of our technology yet, that was the vibe that I got from it. So once I actually started to understand the language a little bit further, and I started to appreciate some of the efficiencies of Database, for example. And previously, all I was used to was, SQL, Oracle databases. I really began to understand how the agency was benefiting from this. But my initial impression was definitely, I was definitely a little nervous at first.
Okay. Next one. This is a very detailed one. Are the existing EntireX ACI applications being rewritten from scratch to convert to RPC, or did they use the ACI RPC bridge as an intermediary step while converting?
Okay. There might be some details of that I might have to take away, but as far as my experience with basically our conversion process, I know we've set up a few of the broker RPC services, and as we're going along, we are kind of taking a holistic approach and basically not reinventing the wheel in one day, if that makes any sense. So the way that we're going about it is more incremental because, like I mentioned earlier, we've got quite an entanglement in a very complex business model. So I can take away that question, and I would like to provide more detail because it would actually help me a little bit too. But we are not rewriting everything from scratch, if that makes sense. And we know we're not using our version.
Next question. What do you think of natural as a computer language versus .NET?
I really appreciate some of the simplicities that natural has. It's plain English, anyone can read it, and it's mostly procedural. So when I first started learning programming, I was used to being able to pass parameters and reach out to these other DLLs, all these things which aren't inherent to the natural language unless you go into some deeper stuff. But natural as a language, there are some things that were a little bit cryptic initially, but overall I I like the language, whereas at first I didn't, because I didn't understand its simplicity, and I always wanted to overcomplicate it.
Okay. Next one. Do you use Web Methods Enterprise Service Bus to any extent?
No, we do not. Not yet, at least.
Okay. Next one I have. Is the Virginia DMV planning to continue to keep their database data and natural programs on the mainframe, or do you plan to migrate off the mainframe platform?
From my knowledge, of course, I'm not an executive, but I've heard nothing but fantastic things about the way that we interact with the mainframe, and our applications we have a solid presence on the mainframe. From my knowledge, there's no move about to happen with that anytime soon, just because it's the tried and true model, and we've got a very, very skilled mainframe programming team, and they're adaptable too. So no, we're not going anywhere on that.
Okay. Next one I have is a broader one, not so much technical, but certainly very important to the topic. And the question is, what appeals to a millennial audience in terms of knowledge transfers and mentoring?
So here's something funny. So with that question, I go back and I think, okay, like for example, if a parent, for example, needs help with a piece of technology or something, and I know the technology and I'm skilled in it and can actually offer my help to them, I think patience and understanding, I try to imbibe that on them. And I think as colleagues and mentors approach millennials, quote unquote, I think the best thing to do is just to understand the difference in the technology suite that they're used to as far as development languages, things like that. Like that's one of my things. When I first came and started programming, I had a wonderful coworker named Natasha, and that was my first experience with Database Natural, and she taught me more than I ever could have probably found by Googling. So until now with new technologies. But the main point is patience and just the realization that the technology platform is so different than what a typical millennial is used to.
Okay. The next one I have, is the DMV investigating the use of DevOps techniques?
DevOps techniques. Now that would probably be a takeaway, unfortunately, for me, because being an application developer, I know obviously we've been working with our DevOps teams in our architecture office on any changes to our integrations with the mainframe and any of our whether they be web or client applications. But I would definitely like to take that one away just to not give you the wrong answer.
Okay. Next one I have, I hope I'm going to pronounce it right since it's not familiar to me. Do you also have COBOL apps on the mainframe?
COBOL apps? No, we do not. Everything on mainframe is either written in JCL for any of our batch jobs, but all of our programs are written in Natural.
Okay. The last one I have at my fingertips at the moment, but please, if anybody has questions, please you still have time to put them through. This is a personal one. What enticed you to start programming, and how did you get started at such a young age?
So I was always the type to where if someone needed a printer installed or someone needed help getting their, see, I grew up right when, I don't know if anyone here remembers, but when they were offering those AOL discs at Sears and things like that. I remember being in elementary school and my parents thought that, they brought home a new AOL disc just because you got a free trial of AOL on a disc, which I don't even remember the last time I saw a CD. But anyway, that was kind of my moment where I finally started to appreciate what technology had, and I just found it to be a very intuitive topic. So that's kind of what got me really started. And then as I got older, I learned a little bit about networking and believe it or not, people think it's magic when you know how to restart a router sometimes. I mean, you can ask my grandmother. She thinks I'm a wizard. But anyway, as far as programming, I started trying to code just because one time I accidentally hit F12 while I was on Chrome or something. I don't even know if I had Chrome then. But I hit F12 and saw code. And I started to just try to decipher the code and started just Googling, just Googling the tags just to see, how can I understand this and can I make something like this happen on my own? And at that moment, I was hooked. So then I downloaded my first copy of Visual Studio Community and just started plugging away. They're trying to build something in basic VB, JavaScript, things like that. And that actually, really got me hooked. And then once I got to the DMV, I started to have a true understanding of, well, actually, let me go back just a bit. Not a true understanding, but I kind of saw infrastructure as something that was attractive. And I wanted to see how systems talk to each other. And I really wanted to understand all of this complex business logic because it just seemed like these had to be geniuses behind these systems. And I one day wanted to be that. So, I mean, I could go on and on about this. So it's, that's what got me into it, and I've been hooked ever since.
Okay, I'm going to throw one more at you. It's a bit broad. Are there further B2B integration needs at the DMV?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, forgive me. I've got one more. Because the mainframers may not be comfortable with the newer Eclipse platform and the newer programmers weren't familiar with the green screen, was there a plan for mentoring, sharing of info, and learning between the two groups? Presumably, the questioner means at DMV.
Yes, actually, and that's actually a very good question. So internally, we have dedicated mainframe programmers, and those are the people that basically, they support the day-to-day operations of these programs. And those are the geniuses that I speak of. And then, there's our own set of geniuses, and I'm glad to be a part of a team. I don't consider myself one, but we're all used to the green screen. And then as time goes on, we're all migrating towards the Natural One and SAG Designer interfaces. So the mentoring and knowledge sharing is definitely happening. And I know internally we have a kind of phased approach that they're using to get people trained on them. And those people are definitely good sources of knowledge and good knowledge pillars if I have any questions. Like, for example, a couple months ago when I got Natural One installed, there were a couple people that, even though it was a transition for me, I thought it was super, super intuitive, but they still had to provide just some pieces of information to me. So there's definitely an ongoing plan and strategy to mentoring and knowledge sharing as we transition from the green screen to Natural One and the Eclipse Workbench platform.
Okay, that's the end of the questions that we have. Josh, let me tell you, you are a fantastic presenter. Your animation, your comfort with this has been great for all of us to listen to. So thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you to your colleagues, of course, at the Virginia DMV. To everybody that is with us today, I invite you to visit us at 2050.softwareag.com, which is our website, and that's 2050.softwareag.com for additional resources on today's topic. Today's program will be posted to YouTube, hopefully by the end of business today, so you can find it there. And of course, if you have any questions, please be in touch with us. So with that, Josh, again, thank you to you. Eric, thank you to you. Our program is over. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.